red Renault Megane as it cruised through the city. Cameras also capture the silver Audi cruising the same areas. Police intelligence would later prove that Colin Joyce was inside the Audi. At 6:46 p.m, this bus camera picks up the Megane. As the footage continues, the silver Audi appears. Just a few other vehicles separate the two cars. We are now on a countdown to murder.
The silver Audi was probably looking for an opportune moment to carry out the execution.
Minutes later, a CCTV camera clearly shows the Audi directly behind the Megane. In just a few seconds, Yukal Chin would be dead.
Amazingly, the point at which both vehicles were alongside each other was captured by a CCTV camera from the premises just across the road there, and the actual point of where the murder took place has been caught on film.
Here you can clearly see the silver Audi draw directly parallel with the Megane, and it was now that the occupants opened fire.
Yukal's car finally came to rest against the telephone exchange box behind me here, and again this was caught on CCTV from a bus that was passing.
On the left of the footage, a crowd can be seen gathering around the crashed Megane. But it was too late to save Yukal Chin.
When I go in the hospital, he was laying on the bed. I see his feet as reaching, and I was dead there over him, hugging him, and they crying.
My mum was trying to wake him up. I'm like, you can't wake him up, Mum. But she was still shaking him. The doctors were like, he's not getting up. And that was the last time I seen him.
Yukal's killers had raced away from the scene of the attack, but CCTV cameras were once again able to track the vehicle.
We knew which way the vehicle had gone following the shooting from witnesses. We picked up snippets of the vehicle and were eventually able to plot it right across Manchester city centre, right the way up into Cheetham Hill for about 30 minutes.
At this point, the car disappeared from sight, and police believe it was probably taken to a breaker's yard and scrapped. However, there was an important breakthrough.
A member of the public wrote down part of the car registration number, which was absolutely vital for us, because using the Police National Database for vehicles, we were able to confirm the registration number of that vehicle.
The Police National Computer, or PNC as it's commonly referred to, has become a crucial online aid to criminal investigations. Advances in technology now allow police to search for vehicles using only a partial number plate. And the PNC managed to trace the silver Audi used in the attack.
It had been purchased in Luton by members of the Gooch gang some 5 days prior to the attack and driven north from Luton to Manchester, where it was stored in Cheetham Hill.
Although Joyce and Amos were still officially under supervision by the authorities, in reality, they'd gone on the run. 6 weeks after Yukal Chin's assassination, the Gooch gang were about to strike again. And this time, it would be an even more shocking crime.
The fact that these individuals have attacked a funeral, I think is unheard of. And I don't think not only in Manchester, but in criminal history in the country.
Yukal Chin was shot and killed in June 2007 as he drove his car through the streets of Manchester. 6 weeks later, his family finally got to bury him, and in the evening, people began gathering outside Yukal's house for a wake, which would itself end in death. Among the mourners were several members of the Longsight Crew and Doddington gangs. Colin Joyce and Lee Amos, the leaders of their bitter enemies, the Gooch gang, knew they were there.
I don't think there was any doubt that both Lee Amos and Colin Joyce hated members of the LSC and Doddington and those opposed to the Gooch, and the fact that there had been 80 to 90 people gathering in such a small location here, amongst which there would have been several gang members, was too much of a target for them to miss.
Just before midnight, the Gooch gang made their move.
2 to 3 vehicles came on from this direction and came towards the junction here, where they stopped and shots were discharged into the group of people.
There was people outside screaming, and they was pushing each other to come in the house, and they say, "They shoot Tyrone." I said, "No, no, not Tyrone, not Tyrone."
Tyrone Gilbert was 24 and about to become a father for the 4th time.
Tyrone was near the front of the close and received a fatal wound to his side. He actually managed to run down to the bottom of the close before he collapsed and subsequently died from his injuries. It's just amazing, really, that there weren't more fatalities with the amount of people that there were about.
It says a lot to me that they could go past a wake and shoot into an open street with women and children. They were just unbiased in who they caught with these bullets. It's just a case of, I think it comes down to they've got no self-respect, so they have no respect for the life of other people. They have no value on life, so anyone's for the taking.
Detectives now had a second drive-by shooting to investigate. And they needed to move quickly to prevent any more bloodshed. CCTV evidence would again prove vital. It showed the murder vehicles moving into position on the night of the shootings.
You can only imagine what the adrenaline must have been like in those cars as they came on to attack the funeral, knowing what they were going to do.
The vehicles used in the murder included a Honda Legend and a blue Audi S4.
Intelligence proved that both Lee Amos and Colin Joyce were together in the blue Audi at the time of the murder of Tyrone Gilbert.
Both vehicles fled the scene and the Audi was never seen again. But police did recover the Honda Legend. It had been abandoned 2.5 miles away in Burnage. This is the car that the killers fled from, now stored in a police compound in Manchester.
There's quite a significant amount of both ballistic and forensic evidence recovered. And in fact, you can see in the door frame here where a bullet has passed through, where one of the assassins has been sat in the seat and discharged his weapon through the window. The vehicle itself had been disguised somewhat by having the rear windows blacked out. Some of this material has been removed now in an attempt to recover fingerprints. The rear window is still blacked out, however. Quite a lot of the evidence within the vehicle was key in securing convictions on a number of the individuals who stood trial with Joyce and Amos.
Police were about to get their next major breakthrough in the investigation. A balaclava was found snagged on barbed wire near the scene of the abandoned Honda Legend. Officers now turned to forensic science in their efforts to solve the case. The Forensic Science Service assists over 120,000 police cases every year. Often it is a forensic scientist working diligently out of the spotlight who provides the crucial pieces of evidence in an investigation. And the recovered balaclava certainly held some secrets.
Being a balaclava, there's a high likelihood of saliva being transferred from the person wearing the balaclava. We test for the presence of saliva using a test paper which will change colour from white to blue. The test takes about 30 minutes to complete. After the 30 minutes had elapsed, we came back to examine, and lo and behold, there were traces of saliva around the mouthpiece. We then target the area where the saliva test is positive, and we take samples of the fabric, we literally cut it out, place it into small test tubes and apply water to extract the DNA that's present in the saliva. What we do is then spin that DNA down in a centrifuge to form a small pellet.
pellet extracted from the balaclava was sent off to be analysed at the National DNA Database in London. Set up in 1995, the database currently holds the records of around 5 million people. 30,000 samples are added to the database each month, taken from items recovered from crime scenes and police suspects. The DNA pellet came up with a match. Aaron Campbell was a prominent member of the Gooch gang, with convictions for violence and drug-related offences.
Aaron Campbell was arrested and interviewed by the police. He accepted that at some point he had worn the balaclava, but not that day and not in the Honda Legend.
It became vital to prove that Campbell had worn the balaclava inside the car, and the forensic scientists were able to do just that. A tape lift produced fibres from the balaclava, and samples were also lifted from the car.
These are the fibres from the balaclava, and these are the fibres recovered from the car seat.
Minuscule identical microfibres were found on both samples, proving the balaclava had been inside the Honda Legend.
To give some idea of the size of the fibres, the individual fibres are perhaps a 25th of the width of a human hair.
The wearer DNA belonging to Aaron Campbell linked him to the balaclava. It also linked him to the Honda Legend, and as we know, the Honda Legend was linked to the drive-by shooting of Tyrone Gilbert.
Forensics had tied the Gooch gang to another murder.
Tyrone's death has devastated the family. Mum was a strong person, but a mum shouldn't have to bury her son.
The Gooch gang had destroyed another family. But cracks were starting to appear and the police were closing in. Ballistics experts were about to add to the weight of evidence mounting up against the gang. First, they were able to identify the murder weapon used to kill Tyrone Gilbert. This is the actual bullet that killed Tyrone, recovered during the post-mortem. Once again, microscopic analysis revealed its source.
The bullet recovered from Tyrone Gilbert was fired from a revolver similar to this Colt revolver here.
Other bullets recovered from the crime scene were proof of a second revolver being used.
This is a Smith & Wesson .357 Magnum revolver of the type used in the shooting.
The Smith & Wesson revolver was recovered during the execution of a search warrant by police in South Manchester some months after the murder of Tyrone Gilbert. That weapon had been used in several previous shootings involving the Gooch gang.
Colin Joyce and Lee Amos were on the run, but they and the rest of the Gooch gang were now having every aspect of their lives investigated by officers. And police now found evidence linking Joyce and Amos to the second murder vehicle, the blue Audi S4. An exhaustive search had led to the discovery of a logbook at a garage in Stockport containing the registration of the blue Audi. The garage owner recalled two men using the initials P and C. Joyce and Amos's nicknames were Piggy and Cabbo. The garage logbook also contained an entry of the letter P and the word Evo. And police had surveillance footage of Colin Joyce getting into and driving away a Mitsubishi Evo. They also obtained a photo from the same observation point, taken by a suspicious